This is not just a YouTube video. It's not a lecture. It's not a motivational speech. This is a journey, a thoughtful one, a space where we slow down, where we breathe, where we reflect. Because the world outside moves fast, too fast. It tells us to react, to consume, to chase things we don't even understand. But here, we choose something different. We choose reflection over reaction, meaning over noise, substance over speed. And instead of telling you what to think, I simply ask, what do you see when you slow down? I'm not a teacher. I'm not here to preach or to pretend I've figured life out. I'm a student, like you, a student of thought, of philosophy, of being. And this channel is my notebook. Every episode is a page. Every thinker we explore is a guide. And today, we begin with one of the most quietly powerful voices in history. His name is Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, a philosopher, and a man who wrote not to impress others, but to remind himself, to remember what matters. His words weren't meant to be published. He never imagined the world would read them. But today, we can. And when we do, something shifts. So welcome to episode 1, and let us begin with a single, powerful thought that may just change the way you see your life. I didn't grow up reading philosophy. Like most people, I was caught in the noise. Deadlines, distractions, expectations. The pressure to constantly do more, be more, prove more. And for a while, I thought that was normal. That being busy was the same thing as being alive. But there were moments, quiet ones, where I felt something else, a sort of emptiness. Not depression, not sadness, just disconnection. From others, from myself. I'd catch myself scrolling endlessly, reacting to everything, and wondering, why do I let small things ruin entire days? Why do I feel anxious about things I can't change? Why do I feel like my mind is being dragged around by the world? It was in one of those moments, late at night, lying awake with my thoughts running wild, that I came across a quote. Just one sentence. And it stopped me in my tracks. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. At first, I didn't fully understand it. It sounded nice, sure. But what did it actually mean? So I read it again, and again, and slowly, it started to hit me. All the stress, the frustration, the restlessness. It wasn't because life was out of control. It was because I was trying to control the wrong things. I was trying to fix the world, instead of learning to guide my own mind through it. That line, from a Roman emperor who lived 2,000 years ago, somehow knew exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. It wasn't advice, it was a mirror, a reflection of what I had forgotten. That strength doesn't begin in the gym, or in our achievements, or even in our goals. It begins in the mind, in how we choose to respond to what happens, not in trying to avoid it. That quote became the spark, and what followed was a journey inward. Who was Marcus Aurelius? So who was Marcus Aurelius? He wasn't just a philosopher. He wasn't just a ruler. He was both, in the most difficult time imaginable. He was born in the year 121 AD, and by the time he became emperor of Rome, he wasn't stepping into peace. He was stepping into chaos. Wars on the empire's borders, plagues that wiped out families and legions, political betrayal, constant pressure. And in the middle of all that, Marcus wrote, not to the people, not to impress scholars, but to himself. He didn't write books. He wrote reminders, private notes to keep his own mind clear, to stay calm, to stay just, to stay grounded while the world around him burned. Those writings became what we now call meditations, a journal of thoughts, a collection of quiet wisdom, written in the margins of war, sickness, and grief. Think about that for a moment. The most powerful man in the known world didn't write about power. He wrote about discipline, about character, about dying with dignity, living with purpose, and serving the greater good, even when no one's watching. His words were never meant to be read by you or me, but they survived, not because they were loud, but because they were honest. He wrote things like, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. There's no ego here, no self-glorification, just a man, struggling like the rest of us, trying to remember who he wanted to be, every single day." And that's why Marcus Aurelius matters, not because he was perfect, but because he practiced. Every day, every battle, every hardship, he came back to the same question: how do I respond? Not as an emperor, but as a human being. Lessons from Aurelius. Marcus didn't write long arguments or complex theories. He wrote short reminders, truths he wanted to live by. Among those, there are a few that stand out. A few that, even today, speak directly to the kind of lives we're trying to build. Let's go through 5 of them. Lesson 1. Control versus acceptance. You can't control everything. You know that. I know that. But still, we try. We try to control how people see us. We try to control outcomes. We try to force life to match our expectations. And when it doesn't, we suffer. Marcus reminds us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. It's not the thing itself, it's how we interpret it. We lose peace not because of the event, but because of the story we attach to it. That email that unsettled you, that look someone gave you that made you question yourself, that careless comment someone made. We give these things power by how we interpret them. Consider this carefully. We spend immense energy trying to manage external events we never truly controlled in the first place. Yet, we often neglect the only thing within our control: our mindset, our interpretation, our response. This lesson challenges us deeply because it demands honesty about our limitations. It asks us to stop trying to bend the world to our will and instead focus our energy inward. It challenges us to change how we encounter the world and respond to it with wisdom, humility, and acceptance. Lesson 2. Reflect daily. Marcus wrote to himself daily. He didn't write to publish. He wasn't looking for likes or praise. He wrote purely to remind himself of who he wanted to be. He used questions, challenges, observations from the day. This was his mental training, just as essential as physical training. Marcus understood something many of us overlook. The mind, just like the body, requires discipline. It needs consistent practice and intentional correction. He encouraged himself, and by extension, us, to reflect each day by asking honest questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What can I do better tomorrow? He wasn't after perfection. He was after presence and accountability. Journaling isn't some new trendy practice. It's ancient, powerful, and proven, provided you're honest with yourself. It clears away illusions and distractions, guiding you back to your true values, one day at a time. Lesson 3. Virtue over emotion. One of the most powerful patterns in Marcus's writing is restraint. This was a man who faced betrayal, loss, pressure, war. But instead of rage, he chose virtue. Marcus writes, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Kindness is invincible. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, I will meet people who are selfish, arrogant, dishonest, and none of it can hurt me unless I let it." Imagine truly internalizing these ideas each morning. How would your interactions change? How would your emotional health improve? Our modern world often pushes us in a different direction. We're told to retaliate, to clap back, to create viral moments through aggression. Marcus says, no, resist that impulse. Instead, ground yourself in virtue. Choose kindness and dignity, even when provoked. Because how you act when emotions run high, that's your truest reflection, your strongest test, your clearest indicator of growth and character. Lesson 4. Return to your principles. Stoicism isn't about never feeling pain or difficulty. It's about repeatedly returning to your core values, no matter how far you've drifted. Marcus didn't always get it right. He made mistakes. He fell short of his ideals, just like we all do. But he consistently returned to his principles. He always recentered himself, reminding himself of foundational truths. You will die. Life is temporary. You don't control others, only your reactions. The only moment that matters is this one, right now. His teachings weren't meant to eliminate struggle. They were meant to guide him and us through struggles with purpose and clarity. Because ultimately, none of us truly desires a flawless life. We desire meaning, purpose, integrity. We want lives we can look back on without regret. Lives lived honestly, deliberately, and consciously, especially when no one else is watching. Lesson 5. Embrace impermanence. Marcus often reminded himself of life's fleeting nature. Everything, pleasure, pain, success, failure, is temporary. Impermanence isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace fully. He writes, everything is ephemeral, both memory and the object of memory. All is soon lost in time. Reflect honestly. How often do you hold too tightly onto things long past? Old stories, outdated identities, grudges, regrets, or even your past triumphs. Change unsettles us because we cling so tightly to permanence. Yet Marcus observed clearly that resisting the transient nature of life is the surest path to suffering. When we accept impermanence, we experience freedom. We begin to cherish each moment because we see clearly its uniqueness, its irreplaceable value. Instead of fearing loss, we appreciate presence. Instead of gripping tightly, we hold lightly, grateful for the moments we have. Reflect deeply on this. What are you grasping too tightly? What freedom might you discover by truly accepting that everything is temporary? How would embracing impermanence enrich your experience of today? Impermanence doesn't diminish life's value, it amplifies it. It reminds us vividly to be present, fully awake, fully alive. What would Marcus say today? Let's pause for a moment and ask a question we rarely do. What would Marcus Aurelius write about if he lived today? What would his reflections look like in a world of smartphones, social media, fast news, and constant comparison? He lived in a time of war, disease, and political instability. But so do we. His problems wore togas. Ours wear tailored suits, trending hashtags, and push notifications. But beneath it all, the same fears, the same ego, the same inner battles. If Marcus opened Instagram or TikTok today, he might scroll in silence for a moment, and then write, "You are not disturbed by the lives of others, only by the belief that you must live like them." He'd see people curating every moment of their lives. Perfect bodies, exotic locations, constant hustle. And he might remind us, approval is a shifting wind. Let your compass be virtue. He'd notice how little space we leave ourselves to just be, to think, to process, to feel boredom without distraction. He'd see us afraid of silence, always filling it with noise. And in his journal, he might write, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Choose carefully which thoughts you allow in." He'd observe how we rush to opinions, outrage, sides. He'd see how quickly we cancel, blame, or attack. And he might say, "Be slow to form judgments. Be quicker to observe. Be stricter with yourself than with others." Because Marcus didn't preach self-righteousness. He preached humility. He reminded himself and us that true power begins within. Modern life is not the enemy, distraction is. We have more access to knowledge than any generation before us. But what good is knowledge if we don't reflect on it? What good is speed if we've forgotten where we're going? Marcus would have warned us. Convenience can become a trap. When everything comes instantly, we forget how to wait. When everything is shareable, we forget what's sacred. When everything is performance, we forget who we are. We don't need to become monks or emperors to live stoically. We just need to practice being still for even 5 minutes a day. To sit, to breathe, to write one honest thought without fear of who sees it. And what would he say to you? He might ask, when was the last time you were alone with your thoughts, without a screen? What is one thing you're pretending not to know about yourself? What fear controls you more than it should? He would challenge you to focus less on how things look and more on how they feel. Less on performance, more on practice. Less on ambition, more on character. He would not tell you what to do. He'd ask, is this necessary? Does this bring me closer to who I want to be? If this were my last day, would I be proud of how I spent it? And he would close his journal, not with fanfare, not with a tweet, but with the quiet understanding that self-mastery is a daily discipline, not a destination. Marcus Aurelius isn't just relevant today. He's necessary. Not because we need a new life, but because we need to remember who we are in the one we already live. So ask yourself, if Marcus followed you around for one day, what would he see? And what would you write in your journal that night? Personal connection. These lessons aren't just ideas I admire from a distance. I try, every day, to actually live them. Not perfectly, not always successfully, but intentionally. I've started journaling each night, even if just a few lines. Sometimes it's a simple question. Where did I act out of fear today? Other times it's, what did I let get to me that didn't deserve that power? It's not always comfortable. In fact, it rarely is. But it's honest. And in that honesty, there's clarity, there's growth. When something frustrates me now, a delay, an insult, a plan falling apart, I pause. I ask myself, am I about to react or respond? That single question has changed everything, because before, I lived like most people do, always reacting, letting emotions lead, letting the world push me around. But when I reflect, when I observe my thoughts instead of becoming them, I feel something different. Space, room to breathe, room to choose. I've also started saying no more often, not out of selfishness, but out of self-awareness. Because every yes you give to something misaligned is a no to something meaningful. And when I do fall short, and I do, I come back. I recenter, just like Marcus did. This isn't about becoming a monk on a mountain. It's about becoming a student of yourself, wherever you are, on the train, in traffic, in a difficult conversation. Because life doesn't pause for us to reflect. We have to bring reflection into life. And when we do, we begin to reclaim the one thing we've always had control over: our mind. Closing thoughts. Plates. Teaser. So let me ask you, what are you holding on to right now that you can't control? What thoughts keep repeating, even though they no longer serve you? And what would it feel like to finally let them go? You don't need a perfect life. You don't need every answer. You don't even need to feel ready. You just need to pause, to reflect, and to choose one thing today that brings you closer to the person you're becoming. Because you already have the most important tool, your mind. And like Marcus said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This was just the beginning. In each episode, we'll explore a new thinker, a new question, a new reflection. Next time, we'll step into the world of Niccolo Machiavelli, a name often whispered with fear and misunderstanding. A man known for cold realism, political cunning, and strategies that shaped centuries. But was he truly ruthless? Or was he just painfully honest about how the world works? Was Machiavelli a manipulator or a mirror, showing us the uncomfortable truth about power, fear, and leadership? In episode 2, we'll reflect on that together. But for now, thank you for being here. Thank you for thinking deeply, and thank you for walking this path with me. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep walking your path.